testimony, as the final meeting for round 3 occurred last Wednesday. With that, I would like to introduce you to our hosts for this evening's meeting. The Commission's 3 co-chairs will all present this evening. They are Dr. Kate Hetherington, Judge Alexander Williams, and Walter Olson, who will start things off. Walter?
Thank you, Kristen. And why don't we start off as we usually do by introducing all 9 of us for members of the public who may be new to the process or watching after the fact. My name again is Walter Olson. I'm from Frederick County and I work for a think tank. Okay, Kate, why don't you go next?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Kate Hetherington. I'm a resident of Howard County and the recently retired president of Howard Community College.
All right, thank you. I'm Alex Williams, I'm a retired judge, and I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland.
Good evening, Jay Amin, a resident of Anne Arundel County, and I'm in land development executive.
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Brooks. I'm a resident of Baltimore County, and I'm a principal of an elementary school.
Good evening, I'm Mary Clausen. I'm a retired federal employee and a resident of Anne Arundel County.
Kim.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. Hi, Kim Cummings, longtime resident of the Eastern Shore, employed with the Circuit Court in Dorchester County, where I reside. Thank you.
I am Jonathan Fussfield, a resident of Montgomery County. I'm a communications manager for a research firm.
Good evening, William Thomas, Senior Principal, Systems Engineer for the Department of Defense. I'm also a grassroots organizer and a Baltimore City resident.
Thank you, commissioners. And our agenda tonight will be a little bit different, just as the chairing of it will be a little bit different. We will be starting out with the discussion of maps and proceeding to a vote. But I think before we do that, we probably should spend a moment on the questions of how the maps may have changed in 1 or 2 respects since our last public meeting, because at that meeting, we talked about a couple of issues in Baltimore County where it was decided what was going to happen. But I think if Professor Pursley has a moment, he can show us the actual lines so that we can all be sure to be caught up with the delegate districts there.
Thank you. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right, so for those who are listening who were concerned about southeastern Baltimore County, I want to make clear that the commission has heard you and that there were significant changes that were made even prior, that were revealed in the last meeting, but now you can see in full what they look like. And so you can see that there were concerns about Edgemere, Dundalk, and Essex, the fact that the previous incarnation of the map went into Baltimore City. You can see now that they are all together in Baltimore County. This is essentially the Senate district here, which will be Senate District 20. The one thing I want to, and I'll just show you, since this was a little bit different, Commissioner Brooks had raised, I thought, some good points about the original shape of this district cut out or divided parts of what is known as Old Dundalk, and instead, as you can see here, the Holabird Avenue, Wise Avenue will be the kind of border here going up toward the water. And so that smooth line is a little bit of a change from last time. I will say, just so people understand, that Dundalk itself is about 1.5 districts, so it has to be split. And given the location of the water and of the location of Edgemere, right, you're going to have a district that goes from Edgemere and then splits part of Dundalk. Here we have either there's a district that would go up and over, or something like what we've got here, which has southern Dundalk and all of Edgemere together. The other change that was made is not terribly significant. It's just moving this cemetery in Pikesville the previous and the Pikesville Reservoir into this district, the previous incarnation had this sort of bite that was taken out of District 16A, and that's just put in without much consequence. There are some people who the census has counted there, but I'm not sure whether they're living or dead, and so it doesn't affect the populations. It's a few dozen people who were counted there, but you can see, as was explained last time, the Jewish community made some arguments about trying to have a district that was respectful of their community boundaries. I will note one thing that we received was information about the Eruv, which is the sort of Orthodox Jewish boundary line for when you can carry stuff on the Sabbath. That exceeds the size of any one delegate district, but this new District 16A gets most of that area that was designated in that testimony. And those are the only two changes that were made since last time. They're not, very consequential. It's mostly just trying to have smooth borders that are reflective of major roads and boundaries in the particular areas where changes were made. Happy to show any other parts of the map if people are interested. One thing I had warned about last time is the possibility that when we combine the delegate districts into the Senate districts, there might be reasons that I would have to make changes because of the population variances might jump up, but that didn't happen. So I was encouraged to see that. So once we combine the single member districts into the multi-member district, the single member district into the Senate districts, they all remained under 2%. In variation. So it's a very tight, equal map, both for the House of Delegates districts and the Senate districts.
Thank you, Professor. And
Walter,
let me add on a different point. And tonight is going to be more explanatory than most of our meetings. We're going to make a point of explaining some things that the commissioners themselves know, being aware that some people will tune into this meeting to get an overview of the whole process. So let me spend a moment on the issue of the numbering of districts, because we've gotten a lot of public comments asking why districts are not numbered the way people expect. And in a nutshell, the executive order from Governor Hogan directed us with the state Senate districts to number them consecutively from the northwest of the state to the southeast. That's not how they're numbered in the current map, which means that certain districts in Baltimore County and Montgomery County, indeed many parts of the state that are out of numerical order under the existing map will get renumbered. And people find that sometimes upsetting, but we are following the directive of the governor's executive order. The governor's executive order was, however, silent on how we numbered the congressional districts. And for a while, we also numbered those from the northwest to the southeast. Boy, did we ever hear from the public wanting their familiar district numbers back on the congressional map. And so a few weeks ago, we agreed to renumber it according to the standard understanding of where those districts are. So if you wonder about the district numbers, there's your explanation. I will also mention, because the last week has been has continued to receive some public comment. Those comments were received and have been circulated to the members. We will not necessarily address the issues, but the commissioners have had a chance to think about the points raised by the various writers, many of them writing about southeastern Baltimore County, whereas Professor Pursley just said, we did that fix a week ago in response to the overwhelming reaction we were getting from residents of Eastern Baltimore County. So with that.
Walter,
yeah.
I need to at least bring up one issue and have Professor Pacelli maybe respond to it. I know we've had healthy debates the last few weeks, and there's been some last minute comments come in. I took a note from one of the senators just this afternoon, And I just wanted to mention what it was, and then if Professor Porcelli wants to briefly address it, he can. But the senator said he had a concern with the new District 17 and what looks to him like essentially a combined Baltimore County's two minority districts. That's District 10 and 44 currently, and a new District 17, which he had concerns with. His point was that by drawing the lines in this manner, the plan is packing Western Baltimore County's Black population into one district, undermining a minority representation within the county. And he would submit that there are other ways to draw the lines without undermining what is currently a diverse Baltimore County delegation. I will say that we have debated that. I just wanted to put that on everyone's mind, so you know that that's the concern, and we've looked at it. I wanted to put it on the record that that's a concern, and I would ask whether Professor Porcelli has any briefly response to that, the concern about the new District 17 in Baltimore County.
So our proposed District 17 is 60% Black voting age population. And the one above it, District 15, is 54% Black voting age population. These are less packed than the current districts. So let me just repeat that. There's no way one could say that we are somehow packing Western Baltimore because these are less packed than the current districts. And part of it, what happens, we've drawn pretty compact districts here that are respecting political subdivision lines. The current district, Senate District 44, crosses into Baltimore City from the west side, right? And so it actually, District 44 is 64% Black voting age population. And the other one that is in Western Baltimore County, District 10, is 61.5% Black voting age population. So there's certainly no packing that's going on, and we've talked quite a bit about each one of the districts in Baltimore City and in Baltimore County. And so we paid attention to this. We did a Voting Rights Act analysis. The entire plan complies with the Voting Rights Act. And we've done so with compact districts that respect political subdivision lines. That's, I think, part of the hard part here is that we neither packed nor cracked, but we had perfectly sort of representative lines that nevertheless also, as I showed in the map before, follow county lines, follow municipal lines, and are not wildly shaped, and certainly are better shaped than the current district. So just on the packing, all I can say is that these lines, in particular in that area, are actually less packed than the existing districts.
All right, thank you, Walter. Just wanted to put that on the record, and as I say, that was a concern, and it's now been addressed by Professor Porcelli. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be turning to the maps in sequence, I believe, starting with the congressional map and then followed by the Senate map and then followed by the delegate map. But I would invite any of the commissioners, if you have things you'd like to bring up that might be overarching issues involving more tn one of the, or involving both the congressional and legislative maps, do feel free to step in and raise those concerns. Otherwise, if you have concerns only about one of the maps, there will also be a chance to do that when we move into the individual sequential consideration. Any overarching comments that people would like to make at this point? Okay, hearing none, with consent of the group, I would like to start with the congressional map. I think it's the one that we have been thinking about the longest and that has that showed the earliest consensus. Are there comments from commissioners about the congressional map? Okay.
Well,
are we ready to
comments.
Oh, yeah. You're muted now, William. Did you have comments?
I was asking, what do you mean define comments?
Oh, just any further things that you believe we should be talking about, anything that would improve our understanding before we proceed to a vote of the congressional map?
I don't know if it'll improve our understanding. I will say that I am, when it comes to the congressional map, I will say that I am disappointed in the lack of feedback I got from Baltimore City legislators and Baltimore City residents from the proposed maps that we've been putting out there all summer, this entire 7-month period. I really don't know whether it truly reflects what the people want to see in a map for a Baltimore City map for a congressional district. I know we talked about proposing the Baltimore City East-West split some time ago, which is probably my preferred option, but at this point it's too late, and considering how loud and clear Eastern Baltimore County has expressed their desire to not be included in anything Baltimore City related. The only way we could draw an East-West split in Baltimore City, it would push those congressional districts into Baltimore County, and there would be a severe ripple effect on Baltimore County, pushing into Harford County, Carroll County, and Howard County, and potentially Anne Arundel County as well. I probably have more to say, and I believe Mr. Theroux, I'm not going to butcher his last name. He submitted comments on Monday that I believe echoed something similar to those thoughts. And I'm actually appreciating him. I believe he ran for mayor the last cycle. I appreciate him sending in his feedback, because I haven't heard from any real Baltimore City legislators or residents really regarding this issue to be able to confidently say this map reflects the best interests of Baltimore City. I have my own personal opinions about making Baltimore City whole, given the current state that Baltimore City is in and the representation that we have already and how it's split 3 different ways. And in my personal opinion is that only one of our representatives truly cares for Baltimore City, but that's a different conversation. I can go on, but I'll just yield at that as to my reservations about the congressional maps as they reflect for Baltimore City.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Any further comments from commissioners? Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion to adopt the congressional map as proposed earlier?
Motion to adopt the congressional maps that were proposed earlier.
Kristen, is it possible to put the graphic of the map on the screen just so that
I was just about to ask that, actually. I was going to ask Professor Pursley to do that, but we can put up, we just will have that proposed draft all the way through it if we put it up.
It's going to have that watermark, but at least for the audience, they will have a chance to see the map that we're.
I can also put up the, my version of map to do that people want, but it's up to you.
If you could put it up, Professor, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Yeah,
Are you able to see it now?
We can, yes. It's not as colorful as the one on the.
Hold on, if you want colors, I can give you colors.
No, no, seriously. For more colorful, yeah. This is the map. It can also be found on the website redistricting.maryland.gov for those who want a longer look at it. Okay, we've had from Dr. Hetherington a motion to adopt the map. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor, could you say aye or wave?
Yeah, let me say this. I think we
Oh,
should
sorry,
get
yes,
a
please go ahead.
recorded, I think we should get a recorded vote for each of the commissioners.
Yeah.
We get an individual call.
I
Yeah.
think that's it. Yes, that makes sense. And thank you for reminding me, Judge Williams. Should we start with the three chairs in the order we introduced ourselves? I vote aye, yes.
Aye.
And as Judge Williams, I vote aye.
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 Kim,
Aye.
aye.
Jonathan, I.
William, no.
Okay. So by a vote of 8-1 with Commissioner Thomas dissenting, we adopt the congressional map. Thank you to everyone. And I'd like to move on now to the Senate map. And again, open things for discussion. Any commissioners who have comments about the Senate map and any observations that might improve our understanding.
And we can pull the map up as you guys have it on PDF as well, if that's easier, if you think. Well, let's try that and we can kind of compare them.
Okay. We should all have the Senate map, proposed Senate map in front of us. Again, I know we have gotten mail on the Senate map in recent days, and commissioners have had a chance to look at the correspondence, even though we not publicly discussing, as we can never publicly discuss all of the different comments in from the public. But any comments from any commissioners about the Senate map? Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion to adopt the Senate map?
I'd so move. Judge
Is there a
Williams.
second?
Second.
Okay, second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of adopting the Senate map? I'll start with myself. I vote aye, yes.
Kate Hetherington, aye.
Judge Williams, aye.
Jay Amin, aye.
Mary
Brooks.
Clausen, aye. Oh, sorry, Cheryl.
It's okay. Cheryl Brooks, aye.
Mary Clausen, aye.
Kim, you're muted.
Kim Cummings, aye.
Jonathan Fussfield, I.
William Thomas, aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote of 9-0, we have adopted the Senate maps. If we could go on to the delegate maps. Okay. For the benefit of the public, some of you I know are tuning in for the first time. The delegate map looks a little different, and one reason is that the commission worked very hard on the issue of triple member districts versus single member districts. There was a lot of sentiment in both directions. We did not have a full consensus on making the state all one way or all the other. We adopted a compromise formula in which triple member districts were adopted, particularly in some of the denser areas of the state, such as the Baltimore area and the Washington suburbs, with some exceptions, which were explained then. But that's why you will see some delegate districts that single member ones, which have 1/3 the population, other districts that are triple member, you may not be able to tell on this map, but they will be electing 3 districts.
Okay, can I make a suggestion? I think Ms. Sophia has the pen here to go to the second map, go to just the second image there, which has the numbers as opposed to the first one, which just has colors. So just go down one slot. There you go.
Excellent. Yes. So you will see here that when you see a single number without an A, B, or C after it, such as District 10 in Lower Montgomery County or District 11 or 12 there, that is a triple member district. When you see an A, B, or a C, as in Western Maryland, as in the Eastern Shore and many other places, those will be single member districts, 3 of which fit into a Senate district. Thank you, Professor Persley, for suggesting that. Any commissioner comments on the delegate map?
I would simply say, Walter, that this was the most challenging issues that we had, the delegate maps. Again, we reached a compromise on a hybrid structure, but it was difficult deciding which would be a single member, which would be a multi-member. But we got through it, and this is the best that we could do under the circumstances. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Judge, and I am proud. I know the public feeling ran high on this. We got more testimony on this than on any other issue. I'm proud that we were able to forge a compromise that allowed us to move forward with the different views, each getting important parts of what they wanted. Well put. Other comments from commissioners?
I'd just like to comment that I think as a group, we had decided that political boundaries in the state of Maryland, particularly county boundaries, were very important not to cross if we didn't have to. So we worked very hard, but with so much water on the Eastern Shore and only one landlocked county, and that's Caroline, I would say we were not able to achieve maybe the best outcome in that one instance, but we did work very hard to look at all the concerns of all of the people who spoke, and I think we did a good job of trying to listen and not split counties. And when we had to combine things, we did them in ways that made sense.
Thank you, Commissioner Clausen.
I agree with what they both said, Judge Williams and Commissioner Clausen, in terms of us having different views on whether it should be single or multi-member, but I do think that the best compromise is what we came to in terms of a hybrid model. So I appreciate even your contributions, Walter, in terms of looking at density and thinking outside the box in terms of how we would get to a place where we could agree. So.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Brooks.
And Walter, I just like to acknowledge Commissioner Brooks for suggesting the hybrid approach, because we did have a lot of discussion leading up to that, and we were very mindful of what the executive order had indicated, that we were supposed to look at single member when possible, but in situations it just wasn't possible. And she suggested the hybrid approach. And I want to thank you too, Walter, for coming out with the mathematical approach to having that. So thank you both.
Thank you. And indeed, it was Commissioner Brooks who brought up the idea of hybrid formula, which proved the key to unlocking our difficulties there. It's a map that, as Commissioner Clausen points out, is very respectful of county boundaries. I would also point out that we all managed to achieve population variances that were nice and low. And this is, I know that it made Professor Persley's job much harder. And I know that all of us also saw that we couldn't always get features of maps that we wanted, and at the same time, keep the variance between districts as low as it is, plus or minus 2% for Senate districts, plus or minus 3% for delegate districts. The existing map has plus or minus 5%, which is a serious departure, in my view, from the one person, one vote equality that Maryland citizens have a right to expect. You can't tell looking at this map how much hard work went into getting closer to equal population variances, but we know that Professor Pursley in particular put an enormous amount of effort on that. And I think we can all be proud that with a short compressed schedule, we managed to do as well as we did on that. So thank you all. Other comments? Okay. If there are no other comments, is there a motion to adopt the delegate map?
I so move.
Yeah.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'll start with my vote. Commissioner Olson, aye.
Kate Hetherington, aye.
Judge Williams, aye.
Jay Amin, aye.
Earl Brooks, aye.
Mary Clausen, aye.
Kim Cummings, aye.
Jonathan Fussfield, aye.
William Thomas, aye.
Thank you. So that wraps up that business section of our meeting. And if I'm reading the agenda correctly, it may also mean that now is Dr. Kate Hetherington's moment to take over from me as chair into the next section. Or Kristen, am I reading it correctly, or is there something more that I should be doing?
Yes, you are. So
Okay.
We're going to be sharing a presentation to go through, and Dr. Hetherington, Judge Williams, Walter, when you are ready for the next page, simply just say next page.
Okay.
Or next slide.
Okay. Kate, I think you're chairing now.
Thank you, Walter, and thank you, Kristen. So we'll go on to the first slide, please. All right, so my part of this presentation is to give you a summary of the activity from the beginning until I'll be passing the baton to Judge Williams, and he will be talking about the next steps. So it seems like a long time ago, but on January 12th, Governor Hogan issued that executive order, which formed the group that you see in front of you now, the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. And as you've heard from the conversations this evening, we were charged with revising the congressional and legislative district lines. And key to that was making sure that we were being fair, transparent, and doing everything in an impartial way. We do have a mix of Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And the governor appointed the 3 co-chairs, and then the 3 co-chairs, we chose the additional 6 members, 2 from each party, and we looked at over 400 citizen applications, and it was quite humbling to see how many people were interested in participating in this process. And I will say that I think we picked the 6 best people that we possibly could to serve in this capacity. So throughout this whole process, you often will hear Judge Williams talk about the importance of transparency. And I think we have accomplished that. Marylanders have been able to see everything that we've been doing, and also they've been able to fully engage into this process. So we'll look at the next slide, please. So back on May 5th, we began our public meetings, and a lot of this had to do with the work sessions that the commissioners had to discuss and talk about the drafting of maps. And we had the ability for the public to view these conversations. Round 1, which were the virtual public meetings that were held, and you can see the dates here, they included 8 regional meetings during which the public could share their thoughts and what they thought should be accomplished through redistricting. And this was prior to the release of the 2020 census data. So not only did we have the challenge of doing everything remotely, which in my mind actually allowed for a more democratic process, because people who maybe wouldn't have been able to go to in-person hearings, we have really good participation, which I'll talk about in a moment, across the state of Maryland. But we did have that constraint arising from the late arrival of the census data. Next slide. So then we got into round 2, and you can see the dates, and these included 4 statewide virtual meetings. And people were able to submit their own maps and present them to the commission with live testimony, and written testimony was also accepted. And even though these were statewide, you could be from any part of the state, just as you were in round 2, you could be from any part of the state and participate. Whereas if we were doing this live, you would be restricted because we would be physically present. So that's why I was saying that this, I think, allowed for a more democratic process. So we did receive at that point 70 map submissions from citizens of Maryland, and every single one was reviewed by members of the commission, and they were posted to our website. We also held 6 public working sessions during September to draft maps for the public to review and comment. We kept in mind the importance of consideration of the Voting Rights Act, and we had the expertise of Professor Nathaniel Pursley of Stanford Law School, who was just indispensable in this whole process. Not only was he in attendance in all of our sessions, but also was able to respond to questions that we had throughout the process, not only in the public sessions, but also in the public work sessions. So then we moved on to round 3, and you'll see the dates in the next slide. All right. These also included 4 public meetings, and this is where Marylanders presented testimony regarding the maps that were drawn by us, the commission. And that, again, is based on the input that we had from the citizens. So in total, we received 86 public map submissions through the portal and email. We held public work sessions at the completion of the testimony, and we made a number of modifications that included, of course, the consideration of the Voting Rights Act, the communities of interest, which were also a main topic for us. And we also wanted to be respectful of the district boundaries. So we responded to public reaction, which was very much appreciated and very healthy. We revamped maps in Southeast Baltimore County, St. Mary's County, Towson, Southern Montgomery County, and made other changes and responses to what we heard the public tell us. This is Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission, and it's important for us to listen to the citizens of Maryland, which we did. We addressed communities of interest, and we modified boundary lines impacting a Jewish community in Baltimore County. And then tonight we voted, but prior to that, we did have the final proposed draft maps. They were on the website, so everyone could see them, and residents could actually go in and enter an address and determine in which district they were located. We also had an additional working session among completion of round 3, and we made further modifications. Next slide. So the numbers are quite impressive. You see, over the course of time, we've had over 4,100 people in attendance at our public meetings. We've heard 231 separate testimony accounts from members of the public, organizational leaders, and our elected officials. We've had over 100,000 impressions on our social media posts, and we reached more than 92,607 on Facebook. Now, we made a special effort to outreach to the public. And so for every meeting that we have, notifications were sent out on a press release to more than 46,000 contacts. And as you can see from the slide, they included various organizations, individuals. So there was a concerted effort to make sure people were aware. And I'm mindful of Commissioner Thomas's remarks about his disappointment about input from certain individuals. But I would say it's not for lack of trying to reach out to them every single time that we've had a meeting. But I understand the disappointment when you don't hear from folks that you think you should be hearing from. We were grateful for our Hispanic Latina advisor, Gloria Aparicio Blackwell. She's the founder and director of the University of Maryland Office of Community Engagement. And she was very, very helpful in getting word out to the community, to the Hispanic Latinx community. Information was translated into Spanish, and they were very catchy advertisements that were sent. So we're very appreciative to her. And we also offered live Spanish translation and closed captioning for the hearing impaired. And we're very grateful to the University of Maryland Spanish Department for the help with that translation. Next slide. So important to remember, and I think sometimes when we look at some of the responses that we've had via email, it might not always be crystal clear to people, but the amount of people in each congressional, state senate, and legislative district rather, is not random. And so based on our census data that we've received, that dictates how many people should be in each. And Commissioner also mentioned earlier that small differential that we have in the Senate and the legislative districts. The congressional districts have to be drawn with the exact same amount of people. We just had a discussion about single versus multi-member districts. And I think Commissioner Olson did a very good job explaining, so I won't go over that again, but you can see from the slide what is taken into consideration. And as mentioned, that's what took a lot of time. So the next slide talks about, again, the single versus multi-member districts, and also our need to be mindful of the needs of the Voting Rights Act. There are 47 Senate districts and 141 House of Delegates seats. So we had to keep the VRA and impact on communities. And that was very important to us. And if you've listened, anyone has listened throughout the testimonies that we've had and the conversations and the hearings, I think that was made very clear. So the final maps that you heard us vote on this evening will be posted to the website. So folks will be able to go in. I assume they'll be posted no later than tomorrow. And at this point in the presentation, I'm passing the baton to my colleague, Judge Williams, to share with you what will happen in the next steps. Judge Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Heatherton. And Walter, I guess you're going to come back and make some final acknowledgements of people that we owe appreciation. But at this point, I certainly would like to say before I move into the legislative process, we got great support from Secretary Rob McCord, and also not just to Christian Fleckenstein, but also to Maria and John and Adam and the rest of the team that provided just awesome administrative support. We thank them, and of course the great professor for his insight and wisdom that he has given to us. Gloria Aparicio Blackwell, of course, she was our expert, not expert, but an advisor rather, on Latino matters. And I know she worked hard. I was checking with her, and as you all know, she's the director of Latino affairs on the campus at the University of Maryland. But she was making sure that the community organizations and groups and people were advised as to what was going on. And she urged so many of them to give testimony and pay attention to our hearings and so forth. So we just appreciate what Gloria has done, and she certainly justified our selection as our advisor. Now, I guess the next question is what happens next? Now that we've had the votes on the 3 maps that we have approved, well, what happens next is that we then present it to the governor. Not only, as Dr. Heatherton has said, will these maps be posted on the website, but again, it'll go to the governor. And once this is done, there'll be some legislation that has to be drafted in the form of a bill to be presented to the Maryland General Assembly. Now, You probably heard, and we will say it again, that the legislature is going to have an emergency session in December. Don't know the date yet, it may be posted, but the congressional bill will be introduced during that anticipated special session. And then the legislative bill will be introduced on the first day of the regular session. I believe the session starts January 12 of 22. And these bills will then go through the legislative process. A vote on the congressional bill will occur before the end of the special session in December of this year, while a vote on the legislative bill must occur by the 45th day of the regular session. Otherwise, the governor's bill becomes law as to vote. It is important for us to remind you that a second commission was formed by members of the Maryland General Assembly. The legislature has also a commission that's getting us information and response for the public. In fact, I believe tonight in Baltimore County, they have a public hearing for people to respond. Now, the commission will likely introduce their own maps through separate pieces of legislation, and the bill will go through the same process as this commission's maps. Next slide, please. Once the legislature has held their final vote on the maps, the legislation will then be sent to the governor for his signature. And this must occur by February 25 of 2022. If the governor vetoes the legislation, then it is returned to the General Assembly. I'm not saying the governor is going to veto it. He certainly has the right to do it. But if he does veto, it's returned to the General Assembly. The General Assembly then has the ability to override the governor's veto. Now, again, just to remind us again, two separate processes. First, in terms of the congressional, again, a traditional bill, emergency measure will be introduced at a special session next month, December 21. The Maryland General Assembly can act on the governor's plan, or they can enact their own. This plan is subject to gubernatorial veto. Neither practice is set in stone, with some flexibility, but the practice, generally speaking, will be by custom. Next slide, please. In terms of the legislative process, there's going to be a joint resolution, which will not be subject to a gubernatorial veto. And under the Maryland Constitution, the governor is required to prepare a plan. I suspect that his legal team right now is working on a plan. Under the Maryland Constitution, the governor is required to introduce his legislative plan on or before the first day of the regular session for a year ending in 2. That's January 12, the start of the legislative session of 22. The Maryland General Assembly can ignore and act on their own plan under the Constitution, but they cannot act on the plan of their own until after the governor submits his plan. Again, the Maryland General Assembly has 45 days to act on the governor's plan or their own plan. If the General Assembly does not act on the legislative plan by that 45th day, the governor's plan automatically becomes the new districts. Is there another slide? Okay, Walter, I guess I'm to turn this back over to you, or I can continue on, or what?
Okay, I'm happy to take over. Judge Williams has talked about how grateful we are to the participants here, and that includes the Department of Planning staff, our advisor, Gloria Aparicio Blackwell, and of course the commissioners who have done a tremendous job. The collegiality, the reasonableness with which we have sorted out what were sometimes differing points of view, I think is a model for groups of this sort. And I think we're also very proud of the substantive results of the maps, how we managed to achieve minimal splits of counties and municipalities. If you look at existing maps, you will find that sometimes they have a tremendous number of unnecessary splits, and we avoided that. We were very careful about the municipal boundaries. We provided a highly understandable layout of congressional districts so people can tell each other what their district is like and determine whether they live in the same district as someone else in most cases. I mentioned the population variance. It's significant achievement. States are at different places in best practices on this, and some of them are sticking with plus or minus 5% with all of the problems that can bring. Others have reduced it to as little as 1% for a first attempt in a short time period. I think we did extremely well at getting 2% and 3% respectively. We have been responsive to public comment. We are proud, even though we did not consider party matters at all. As you know, we are prevented from looking at things like partisan data about registration or voting history. The Princeton Gerrymandering Project, which is allowed to look at those things, gave us an A for the congressional map and for the early version of the Senate map. They haven't had a chance to review the latest changes, but I think nor have they yet reviewed the delegate map. But I think that's, if you follow the redistricting topic, you know this is not to be taken for granted. There are states that are getting an F. There are other states that are getting a C. I think we can be rightly proud that this independent ratings organization from some of the most respected academics has given an A to our work so far. Now, our work as a commission is drawing to an end, and I've expressed my thanks and appreciation, and I think we probably will want to go around and give each of us a chance to say in our own words the same sort of sentiments. But before that, I wanted to say our official job is over, but all of us can participate as much or as little as we would like in one bit of cleanup, which is we will be sending a report helping to explain the maps, helping to talk about how the testimony at public meetings, for example, was something that we took to heart. Any of you on the commission are welcome to volunteer to perhaps write a section, hint, hint, hint. We would love to divide that work. The chairs, and in conjunction with the planning department staff, are taking responsibility for getting the report done, but really anyone who would like to write a section or just send us your own ideas for 2 or 3 points. Perhaps there was a particular episode that made an impression on you, or something that we haven't mentioned tonight that you think that is worth having the public know about. So even if you don't want to volunteer to write a whole section, feel free to send the commission and the chairs in particular just some of your thoughts that you would think would be good in a written report to the governor. And we will make a point of running the text of such a report or letter by all of you so that you can make sure that it is fairly presented the different opinions that we've heard from commissioners and represents our best possible effort to sum up the different viewpoints on the commission. So again, thank you to Professor Persily. Kate, would you like to continue with the thank yous before we get to the commissioners, or okay, I'm sorry, there is a page of final acknowledgements.
Yeah, there is a final slide.
Yeah, I think we, yeah. Okay.
Well, I think we've gave our thanks, but here it is for everyone to say it in case they like to see more details. But Manal Lacourte also should be thanks, and Jackson Monzon also should be thanks. I didn't give their names specifically, but the administrative support, as I mentioned before, from Kristen Fleckenstein, Maria Sophia, John, Adam, just incredible. We really could not have done it without you, and we appreciate how timely everything that you provided to us was received, how the Zoom links were working most of the time. If not, it was on our end because we didn't have connectivity. So thank you so much for that, because that was a yeoman's task, and really appreciate that. And I think if we're at the point where we're acknowledging everyone, I'd just like to acknowledge the pleasure that I've had working with my co-chairs on this process. You're actually the only two people I've met in person, and that was the day when the governor made the executive order announcement, and that was it. But everyone else, I've only met you virtually, but I feel like I know you quite well since we've spent these last 7 months together, and I appreciated the opportunity for us to speak freely, what we thought, and we didn't always agree, but we had an opportunity to express our opinions, and I think that helped in this whole process. And I'm especially pleased to see this ranking that we've had about partisan fairness from the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, because for most of us, this whole process is new. We've never done this before. We probably didn't even think about redistricting. Well, I'll speak for myself. It's new to me. And when we were asked to do redistricting, how can you say no to the governor? It's like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. But I've learned so much about this process, and I've taken time to delve more deeply into redistricting and the importance that it has. And of course, listening to the citizens of Maryland, that there's really not too much more that you could say about that, but that is tremendous and allows people to have a voice, and a voice which I think all the commissioners truly heard by the work that we have seen, the outcome that we've seen tonight. So it's impressive work, and I'm really just honored to work with everyone who's on this commission. Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, and Walter, I again, just to piggyback on what Kate has said, I want to thank each of the commissioners for your extremely hard work. This was a lot of work. We were meeting sometimes twice a week, and it went on for months. And all of you and the rest of us, we're all busy people with tough schedules, but we had to work not just during the hearings, but off hours. And this was unpaid. I just want to let everyone understand this is unpaid. And so we had to select 6 other commissioners, and you all didn't have to accept it, but you did. And you stayed with us, and only in the emergency situations did anyone not come. So we had great attendance on each of the meetings and so forth. So I just want to express my appreciation to all of the 9 commissioners, including myself, again, for your countless hours of work, commitment, dedication to this very, very important process that's taking place. The issue of redistricting is the hottest issue in America right now, and it's going to get more passionate after the first of the year. It really will. And so, again, thank you all for your time and commitment.
Other commissioners to make comments?
I'll jump in, not to belabor the point, but definitely thank all of the my fellow commissioners, in particular, all the 3 co-chairs for your leadership throughout this process. Maryland Department of Planning and their staff for all of the logistical support and administrative support that certainly facilitated all of our success, and Secretary McCord, as well as the Maryland public, which we obviously wanted to make sure we incorporated them into this very transparent process, and I'm glad to have been part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. All right. Walter, it's back in your hands.
Okay. Is there any further business before we hear a motion to adjourn? Any commissioners have?
I think the commissioners want to say something, Walter.
Yeah.
William has something to say.
Right. Okay, good.
Again, I always have something to say, whether I should say it or not is a different question. One, I think probably I wouldn't say the most important thing I have to say is now that we're coming to a close, it's been a pleasure, virtually meeting some of you all, and I did have the actual pleasure of meeting a few of you in person when we went to Utah. I want to thank what I call her my mother on the commission, Ms. Kristen, for everything that she's done and all of the support that she's given me. I want to thank my commission wife, Cheryl, for all of our conversation and back and forth exchange. And shout out to Pastor Priscilla with all of his expertise and making sure we were within bounds. I appreciate Secretary McCoy for his conversation, especially out in Utah. Thank Mary for her analytical mind and Jay for his as well, trying to do things by the numbers. All of the input that I've gotten from everybody, it was interesting because looking at the timeline that Dr. Hetherington went over, it was some of the dates that we hit coincide with some personal losses that I experienced in my life. I've lost 6 people, 4 of which have happened during the work of this commission. I believe May 5th was our first public hearing, and May 4th I buried my mother. It's just been a lot I had to push through with trying to be as committed as I possibly could with this commission. And given that, I will say, like, suggestion for future works, if we did have an opportunity to have a citizens redistricting commission in the next 10 years to think about the possibility of adding alternate commissioners in case someone has to, for whatever reason, back off of their commitment to the commission. We already have people that are up to speed and knowledgeable of what the process has been thus far. Again, as Judge Williams mentioned, this has been for free. And then we learned in Utah that some commissioners and other states have been paid. And I'm not saying we need to be paid. I'm just saying it should be considered, because these are, as the executive order stated, everyday working individuals, and we put in a lot of time, energy, and effort to try to put the best product forward to represent the people of the great state of Maryland. I do want to address something that I've noticed. It's not an indication on anybody in particular. It's just something that I noticed. We were sending out mass emails to notify the public of the meetings. I believe it was 46,000 emails per email blast. I will say, I'm not sure what the registration or sign up list is to be a part of 46,000, but everybody that I know in Baltimore City did not receive these emails. So once I was made aware of that, I started making my own email blast, and I appreciate Maria for helping me to put together a language for an email blast to reach out to people that I know specifically. So I don't know if there's a certain website in the Maryland Plan Division that people need to register for, but if that is the case, to receive the email blast, I think that needs to be put out there a little bit more, so more people can be informed on what, the work that you guys are doing. And I have my marching orders for the next 10 years in educating, the city that I represent, or the city that I love, on the issue of redistricting. As Dr. Kate mentioned, I didn't know what it was really until I applied. I was actually surprised that I was even picked, to be honest with you. Because I'm an engineer, I'm a problem solver, I'm a technical guy. So when it comes to politics, it's not really my thing. And then if the bit of feedback that we've gotten from public is any indication of what it's like to be a politician, I have no interest whatsoever. So I'm gonna go ahead and say I appreciate Secretary McCord and the Planning Commission and everybody who lives in that world for what you do, because I don't know if I'm saved enough. I don't know if I'm quite right with the Lord enough to do what you guys do. I'm just keeping it all the way 100. So yeah, educating the public over the next 10 years on what redistricting is and what the issues are, and why it's important to them and why they should pay attention. Those are my marching orders for the next 10 years. So keep your phones on, and I'll definitely be reaching out.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas.
I'm going to take a minute. Oh, Cheryl, I see you. You want to go next? We'll stay alphabetical here.
So nice. Okay, Mary, it's just been a pleasure meeting everyone virtually and working with you. It's definitely been a learning curve. And as an educator, we're always open to learning and growing. And learning and listening to so many different perspectives, it really opens your mind, to what you can learn and what perspectives are, and how you need to be open to working, collaborating with others, which is what we should all do. I do appreciate everyone here. I also appreciate Judge Williams for having faith in me. I was like, wow, really? Like me? So I do appreciate that. I'm honored. I have new friends now on the commission. That was funny, William, because we did talk a lot in Judge Williams. So I appreciate the new relationships we have and all that we were able to do together, because it's so important for our state to really be open-minded and fair in the process. And I do feel like we were. That's the most important thing: be equitable, to be fair, and to be open-minded and collaborative at the same time. Thanks, everyone.
See why she's a
Yeah.
principal.
I want to start by saying thank you too. This group was amazing what we accomplished when we stepped back. As I said, I've been a long time public servant for Defense Department, and as a citizen, all I did was vote. That's what I did as a citizen, and I've always loved maps. That was my whole career, fancy digital things with maps, but I didn't know what redistricting was until I hit this, but I feel so fortunate that I was, first of all, that the governor gave an opportunity to every citizen in the state to apply, which was pretty neat. And then I felt very fortunate to be selected. I feel like we were part of a moonshot group. I mean, we did a first ever for the state of Maryland. We created fair redistricting maps. And I'm just so proud to be part of everybody. And the way we compromised, listened, and made it happen. That's a big part because of the troika that was running us. Walter Olson and Dr. Hetherington and Judge Williams just put together the right words at the right time to keep us all on target. And we got it done. So I am just so proud of what we've done, and looking forward to watching the next steps. I may go down to Annapolis and sit in the galleries if any of that's not open, if any of it's open to the public to see what the next set of maps is. But thank everyone for giving us all an opportunity to do this. It wouldn't have happened with just one or two of us. We all had to be there. Thank you.
Hey, Kim here. I just wanted to say thanks everybody for wonderful teamwork and great moral support and technical support, because we couldn't have done it without everybody involved. Even if your name's not up here, many people had a hand in this. And I just want to say I appreciate everything.
I want to echo that. Thank you, everybody. From the day that Kate called me to chat with me about possibly joining the commission, to offering me the position on the commission, to through today, it's been a great learning experience. I've always loved history, but this is kind of not something I ever saw myself doing in that vein. If anything, it's given me a newfound appreciation for the state and understanding all the different areas. I've been all over the state, but now I have a newfound appreciation for it. It's been great working with all of you, and I thank you all for making it an enjoyable experience, even if it was a stressful experience.
Thank you. I think we've heard from each of the commissioners now. Any more thoughts to wrap things up, or?
Yeah, one last thought. Are we all going to get like matching commissioner tattoos or something? Because I feel like we're bonded now. I feel like
Unless
I
they
want a
rub
t-shirt.
off.
I want a t-shirt. I don't want a tattoo.
Walter, can I say one thing?
Sure, please do.
Let me just, I want to situate this in the national conversation right now. And because I do have a national perspective on this, because working in other states, and I want to hold this out as a model for how this can be done. Given our poisoned politics right now, it is extremely rare to get civility and compromise, and especially when there are potentially high stakes. And you are seeing commissions around the country fall apart And the fact that you all were able to come together to deal with these 3 very complicated plans for reasons that you've already expressed is really a tribute to you. Many of you have remarked on the lack of sleep that I've had over the last few months. And let me explain why I do this, which is, and what I teach my students, which is that fundamentally redistricting is about translating communities into political power, right? It is about how you represent people in a democracy. And particularly when democracies are under stress, as ours are, it is so important that people of good hearts and minds join together to try to lead to that kind of representation of communities. And so I really want to laud your work in this, as well as that of all the staff that supported it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Unless there are more comments, once again, heartfelt thanks to all of you. We can be proud we've come this far. Unless there is more business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of final adjournment of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you all, and onward and upward.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Great working with you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure.
Kristen.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Okay. Record. Thanks.
All good, Kristen? You're muted.
Are you, oh, hold on, maybe now that everybody